The builders for 300 years, humanity had been the galaxy's unseen hands. When the ancient Vrix terraforming engines failed on colony world Theta 9, it was human engineers who crawled into radiation-flooded chambers to replace the core. When the Kelthani plague swept through the outer rim, it was human doctors who worked 72-hour shifts, their own immune systems pushed to the edge, to synthesize a cure. When pirates raided the isolated settlements that no government claimed, it was human volunteers who flew into the dark to defend them. They didn't do it for glory. They did it because someone had to. The Galactic Council chamber on Axis Prime was a cathedral of power, crystalline spires reaching toward artificial stars, holographic displays shimmering with data from 10,000 worlds. Here the elder species made their decisions, the philosophical archons, the calculating Vreem, the proud Kelthani, the ancient silicates who had witnessed civilizations rise and fall like seasons. And here, humanity sat at the table as equals, or so they thought. Ambassador Lena Chen had represented Earth and its colonies for 12 years. She had negotiated trade agreements, prevented wars, and championed exploration initiatives that benefited everyone. She believed in the Council. She believed in cooperation. That belief died on a Tuesday afternoon, by Galactic Standard Time. Part 2. The vote. The motion is clear, High Archon Velis announced, his voice reverberating through translation fields. Humanity shall be reclassified from full Council membership to Protectorate status effective immediately. Lena stood slowly. Around her, the murmur of approval from other delegates felt like static in her ears. Protectorate status, she repeated, her voice steady despite the fury building in her chest. You mean supervised, controlled, diminished? We mean guided, Velis corrected, his trilateral eyes reflecting what might have been pity. Your species is young. Brilliant, yes, but reckless. You push boundaries without considering consequences. You solve problems with improvisation rather than established protocol. This chaos cannot continue at the highest levels of governance. A Vreem delegate, its crystalline body refracting light into cold spectrums, added with mechanical precision. Humanity's innovation quotient exceeds stability parameters by 47%. Regression to mean is necessary for systemic equilibrium. Lena looked at each of them. Species that had relied on human hands to fix their failing infrastructure. Species that had called for human medics when their own medicine couldn't adapt. Species that had begged for human explorers to map dangerous sectors they were too cautious to enter. Let me understand this, Lena said quietly. We're too useful, so you're punishing us? You misunderstand, a Kelthani elder hissed, feathers ruffling with indignation. This is protection. For you and for us. Humanity's potential is immense, but so is your capacity for disruption. We have maintained galactic peace for millennia through careful balance. You threaten that balance. Lena closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, something had changed. Not anger, something colder. Something final. I see. She gathered her datapad and stood. Then we'll do exactly as you wish. We'll step back. We'll stop disrupting your precious balance. She walked toward the chamber exit, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. At the doorway, she turned back one last time. Just remember one thing. When your lights go dark again, remember who kept them burning. The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss. The Council resumed their agenda within minutes. They had more important matters to discuss. Part 3. The withdrawal. Humanity didn't argue, didn't protest, didn't fight. They simply left. Within a week, human engineers on Station Kepler 7 completed their final maintenance cycles, documented every system thoroughly, and boarded transport ships home. They left manuals. They left training protocols. They even left AI assistants programmed with troubleshooting guides. They just didn't leave themselves. Human doctors on the medical ship Asclepius finished treating their final patients, transferred case files to local authorities, and departed. They left medicine. They left equipment. They even left research data that would take other species decades to reproduce. They just didn't leave humans to interpret it. Human explorers and peacekeepers across the frontier wrapped up their missions, marked hazardous zones on public maps, and came home. They left warnings. They left coordinates. They even left supply caches for future travelers. They just didn't leave anyone willing to venture out again. Earth and its colonies sealed their borders, not with hostility, but with quiet finality. Trade continued, but on human terms. Diplomatic channels remained open, but human ambassadors declined council invitations. The species that had once volunteered for every impossible task simply stopped volunteering. The galaxy barely noticed at first. After all, how much difference could one species make? Part 4. The Unraveling. 3 months after the vote, Kepler-7 station experienced a cascade failure in its atmospheric recyclers. The equipment was old, pre-council era, and required constant adjustment. The manuals were clear, but understanding why an adjustment worked was different from reading how to make it. The VRIX engineers tried for 40 hours before evacuating 2 habitat rings. 3,000 colonists relocated planetside while repairs were pending. 6 months in, a new strain of Kelthani spore fever emerged on the rim colonies. It was similar to the plague from decades ago but mutated. The research data humanity left behind was comprehensive, but it assumed a baseline understanding of adaptive immunology that most species didn't possess. They treated symptoms but couldn't develop a cure. The death toll reached 40,000 before quarantine protocols contained it. 9 months in, pirate clans began raiding outlying settlements with impunity. Council peacekeeping forces were stretched thin and unwilling to risk ships in uncharted, dangerous sectors. The settlement sent distress calls. No one came. Humanity had always come, not anymore. The realization the emergency council session was not announced publicly. That would have caused panic. High Archon Velis addressed the chamber, and for the first time in his century of service, his voice carried uncertainty. We have compiled reports from 97 sectors. Infrastructure degradation has accelerated 30-fold. Medical response effectiveness has declined by 60%. Frontier security incidents have increased 800%. A holographic display showed the data. Red warning spreading like infection across the galactic map. A silicate delegate, ancient and slow-moving, pulsed with low-frequency communication. We did not account for interdependence depth. Humanity was not merely labor. They were systemic adhesive. The Vreem delegate's crystalline form flickered with what might have been distress. Correction. They were not adhesive. They were catalyst. They enabled function beyond design parameters. Without catalyst, reactions cease. They fixed things we didn't even know were broken, a younger Kelthani diplomat admitted, voice small. They saw problems we were blind to and solved them before they became crises. Velis looked at the empty seat where Lena Chen had once sat. We believed they were the chaos, but perhaps they were the only thing keeping entropy at bay. Part 6. The request. The message to Earth was carefully worded. Not a demand. The Council had learned that lesson. A request, an invitation to return, assurances that humanity's contributions were valued. Ambassador Chen, now retired to a small research station orbiting Mars, received the transmission personally. She read it twice. Then she composed her response. To the Galactic Council. We received your message. We appreciate the acknowledgement. However, Earth and its allied colonies have moved forward. We are building something new. A coalition based on mutual respect, not hierarchy. Species who wish to partner with us as equals are welcome. Those who wish to supervise us are not. We will not be returning to Axis Prime. Respectfully, Lena Chen. The Council sent follow-up messages, offers of full membership restoration, economic incentives, cultural exchanges. Humanity politely declined each one. Part 7. The New Dawn. 5 years after the withdrawal, the Galactic Council was not defunct, but it was diminished. Infrastructure continued to decay. Medical advances stagnated. Exploration slowed to a crawl. The elder species maintained their traditions, their protocols, their ancient balance. They also maintained their slow decline. Meanwhile, in a different region of space, humanity had built something else. The Cooperative Alliance. Dozens of species who had been overlooked, underestimated, or pushed to the margins. Young species with potential. Old species who remembered what it meant to struggle. Together, they built stations that didn't just function but thrived. They developed medicine that adapted and evolved. They explored not out of obligation but curiosity. They didn't follow ancient protocols. They wrote new ones as they went, learning from mistakes and celebrating successes. When emergencies happened, they responded together. When innovations occurred, they shared freely. When one species struggled, Others lifted them up. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments and setbacks and failures. But there was also laughter and discovery and hope. And in the old council chambers on Axis Prime, the elder species watched from their crystalline spires and wondered when everything had changed. Part 8. The Echo Ambassador Chen, now older but still sharp, stood at the observation deck of humanity's new hub station, Aurora. Through the viewport, ships from 100 species moved in coordinated patterns: trade vessels, research craft, exploration frigates. A young human officer approached. "Ma'am, there's another message from Axis Prime. They're asking again if we'd consider rejoining." Chen smiled faintly. "What do you think we should tell them?" The officer considered. "That we're busy building something better?" "Perfect. Add a line wishing them well." Chen turned back to the viewport. "They taught us an important lesson after all." "What lesson?" "That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight or to argue or to demand recognition." Chen's reflection in the viewport looked peaceful. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away and build something so remarkable that others will wish they'd treated you better when they had the chance. Below them, an exploration ship launched toward the frontier. Its crew was mixed. Humans, yes, but also young Vricks who wanted to learn human engineering. Kelthani, who studied human medicine. Even a few former council species who had quietly left to join the alliance. They weren't protectorates. They weren't supervisors, they were equals, partners, friends. And somewhere across the void, in ancient chambers designed to project power, the elder species of the council sat in their seats and felt, perhaps for the first time in millennia, the weight of true loneliness. The silence humanity left behind echoed louder than any words they could have spoken. And the galaxy learned, too late, that those who serve are not servants. They are the foundation on which everything else stands. Take away the foundation, and even the stars can fall. Epilogue. The warning: centuries from now, when new species join the galactic community, they will be taught about the departure, not as history, as warning. Never take for granted those who build. Never dismiss those who heal. Never underestimate those who dare. Because the day they decide you're not worth their effort is the day you discover how much you needed them. And in some quiet corner of human space, the descendants of Ambassador Chen will smile and continue their work, knowing that respect isn't demanded, it's earned, and once lost, it's nearly impossible to reclaim. The silence fell when humans left, and the galaxy has been listening to that silence ever since. The end.